So the next item of whatever we want to call it is the No King's Day protests, which Steve keeps showing up at these things. I have not, but every time they happen, I go out and I look at the videos and the pictures from, Austin and everywhere else that you can see stuff. Even more so than the first one, there was higher attendance and basically no. Okay, I won't say no violence, but the little bit that there was not prompted by anybody actively part of the movement. It was like other people trying to agitate, and it was small and whatever, and it was so in my personal opinion, and again, I wasn't there, so we're going to get Steve's opinion in a second. The protests did what they were supposed to. The question then is that enough? And the obvious answer is no, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be doing them. They're if we can be as effective as we are, then we need to continue doing them as a stepping stone for other things.
Yeah, exactly right. So I've been going to these since the first one here, and it was called something else, and then there was one Veterans Against this whole bullshit. So I've been to almost every one, I think, since they've had them here in Austin. And there was, a good turnout in the beginning, and now it's just massive. And, people were estimating anywhere from 20 to 50,000. I was thinking 30 to 50, just off the top of my head. From being
between the numbers that I've heard, I think probably 30 is what actually happened.
That's a solid number. That's a solid number,
right.
Because I've been to enough festivals and Grateful Dead concerts and things like that to know what 100,000 people look like. From Chicago, there's, you have the... Taste of Chicago, and you've got, the fireworks, and you've got the air show, and, massive amounts of people. So I know what a crowd looks like. And this crowd was huge, and it took hours to get them across that bridge on First Street. So there had to be 30, 20, 30, up to 50, like they're saying. And then they filled up Zilker Park afterwards. So it was a really good turnout. And, here's this thing, though. And this goes to... Look, I'm going to come at this in two different ways. One is what really burns me. A lot of people are talking about, the left and the right being two wings of the same bird. And look, I get it. I understand it, especially when it comes to liberals and neoliberals, that it's all kind of rooted in white supremacy and capitalism. And that, at the core, that's sort of what they're always at. And a lot of times, especially when it comes to foreign policy, you're going to get a lot of similarities in the policy. There's enough of a difference that it makes a difference, but unfortunately...
Not as much of a difference as we'd like it to be.
Yeah. So there certainly is some, problems with Democrats, let's just call them Democrats right now, who are a spectrum of the left. And look, there's a horseshoe of white nationalism and what this America's on. Then there's a left that's kind of off of that horseshoe, right? And that people that are off that want a progressive society, a democratic socialism, can kind of veer from being left of the horseshoe and being in the true left, But that's a whole nother discussion. But my point is this, that even people on the left, these liberals and neoliberals, are not the same as the right, these fascists. And what people are confused, and what really irks me is when I hear, like, oh, you scratch a liberal or you scratch a Democrat in a fascist bleeds or some crap like that. And it's so ridiculous in my mind because it lacks full understanding and it lacks pragmatism. I understand that, like, as more and more people become awake and aware of what's happening and understand narcissism and abuse and like how these systems, these hierarchies and this patriarchy is so abusive, that the first gut reaction is we got to stop this right away, immediately, in the right way, But what they seem to lack understanding of is, like, this has kind of been known since Marx and Engels, and even with psychology before then, around that time.
There's going back 150 years, give or take.
Yeah, so you got Marx and Engels, and you've got Jungian psychology and stuff, and this all kind of merges together to get an understanding of what these psychotic people are, and they don't understand their shadow selves, and all these things kind of combine with, understanding, like, breaking down capitalism and why that. But capitalism was a step away from slavery, even, in a way. And then you kind of progress to, socialism, and then in a democratic way, and then you progress to communism. But you have to make these steps. And look at any society that tried to skip the steps, right? So when you have what happened in Russia, when you have what happened in France with the early Enlightenment, it got out of control. The fire burned out of control, and they ended up killing. And then what do you end up with? Napoleon. What did you end up with in Russia? You ended up with Stalin. Well, first you had
the czars.
This is the reason they got rid of the czars is because of this monarchy. So they wanted communism, but what did you end up with? Because you had a violent revolution. You ended up with the same fucking thing. So, but worse.
Just a dictatorship under a different name or something.
Right, a dictator. Animal Farm. Read the fucking book. So, what happens if you don't go about it? You start a fire that you cannot fucking control, and these psychopaths that are just as these kind of guys that would lead a revolution like that they don't care what they can call it socialism, they can call it fascism, they can call it whatever they want. They don't give a fuck. They just want to be in power. So you got guys like Trotsky that were kind of like, in the middle and stuff. They booted his ass out and murdered him. But and even with Lenin, he wasn't quite as bad. He was still a guy that, like, if you listen to Bertrand Russell, when he went over there in like 1918, he's like, oh man, I had a conversation with this guy and I changed my mind. Fuck these guys. This guy's vicious. So even Bertrand Russell, who's a socialist, remained one his whole life was against these Russian lunatics. So everybody wants to equate socialism with these guys. No, these are like fascist dictators or totalitarian states or megalomaniacs. Put any fucking label you want on that, right? So I'm going a long way to get to my point, but that's what happens. Look what happened in China. Look what happened in Cambodia. Look what happened even to some extent in Cuba. When you get a violent revolution and the void is filled with these people that are like this. Now, that's not to say that imperial societies like in the West and things didn't hinder their advancement in socialism. They certainly did. They stopped trade with them. They embargoed them. They literally like cut them off from the rest of the world so that they started starving. So that did further the death rates in these countries. But Stalin had his own purges, knocked out all his all his generals, and then he had the gulags and people that talked against him. He just, So this is the thing. And this isn't happening on the left here in America to that extent yet. But when I hear people saying the left and the right are the same, no. Look, it's a step in the right direction, because at least if you get some of these people in positions, then you can start having a conversation about where we need to get. We can't even have that conversation right now. That conversation is not even on the fucking table. We just need to stop the hemorrhaging. That's it. I mean, this is suicide when you just sit and don't vote because you don't like Kamala's opinion.
A year ago, they had bad ideas.
Right
now, they're not even talking. It's the same reality. They are literally talking about things that do not exist.
Right, they're in an alternate reality.
Yeah.
So, and we warned, and everybody was warned against this, that this would happen, right? But you're going to sit out because, and I'm talking to people. I always say, I don't know why I'm doing this, but people are going to sit out because they're like, oh, they're the same. They're not who got women the rights to vote? Who got the Civil Rights Act passed? That's freak on the left. And those were liberals too, and they were capitalist liberals, and they still got that shit done.
And unfortunately, now you can look and say, who's trying to remove some of those things?
Right. It is such a. I'm so sick of like this conversation not having any nuance. Like where it's just like, oh yeah, well because they still have these foreign policies, Yes, I understand. I understand more than you fucking do, probably. All right, you people that are saying this shit. So you don't tell me I don't get it. I do get it. I understand exactly what you're fucking saying, and I understand like about how you want to, where you want to get, and I'm there too. But I also have the wisdom and pragmatism to know that you can't look. If I want to run a marathon, I don't fucking like. Oh yeah,
I'll wake up tomorrow and say,
oh,
it's next week. Well, sure, we're good. Yeah,
run 10 miles. Like,
yeah,
dude, get the fuck out of here. So here it is, because I heard this one person on TikTok and she's saying some ridiculous shit like, yeah, look at these people. That's so performative. They're not going to get anything done. This means nothing. They should have dressed all in black and got violent, and that would change. Do you know what that would have done? They would have sent in their National Guard that they had sitting out there and said, this is exactly what we told you these people were.
Yep.
This is exactly what we told you we were. We'd be in a state right now where this whole thing would be shut down and we'd be in a fucking lot of shit right now. It'd be so much fucking worse if they would have done something like that.
We wouldn't even be allowed to do this video.
Right, so...
or you wouldn't be allowed to watch it. Or both.
Right,
Who knows?
Yeah. So, shut up. You don't even know what you're talking about. You have no idea what you're talking about. And if you're going to do it, why aren't you out there doing that then? Get your gun and go up there and improve yourself. Because you're full of shit. You're full of fucking shit. You wouldn't have the gonads to do it. You want other people to do it, but I believe you wouldn't fucking do it. And if you're going to do it, and you say you're going to do it. Here's the thing. This is going to be a multi-pronged approach. Now, I'm not saying that certain activities of resistance don't involve some action, right? And that's certainly going to happen, especially in self-defense in a lot of cases. Now, I'm not condoning anything. I'm just saying that happens. But you have to have all these things in place simultaneously as a movement, right? So what this did was establish a couple of things. Look, how many people did not vote in the last election, right? Not because they didn't like the fact that, which is a good number, that the Democrats weren't progressive enough, but the ones who just don't vote because they just don't fucking deal with politics because they just want to stay out of it. And I understand those people too. Much better than I do with people on the right or people who sit out because they don't like Kamala or some shit because she's not progressive enough. But these are the people that maybe we can win back over. Come on, man, vote this time so we can at least get in the right direction. Those are the people that are going to look at this. You know, these are the same people during the civil rights actions that saw people getting hosed down in the streets and the dogs biting at them, and they were like, this ain't right. You're going to appeal to some of these people a lot more. Like the guys on the right that are MAGA, you're not going to do that. Some of them are coming over, and the best they will do is not vote next time, which is fine. They might not vote for a Democrat. I'm not even trying to worry.
But at least they're not voting.
Right. I'm not trying to talk
that's a step in the right direction.
I'm not trying to talk to those people. I'm talking to people who are just brainless and sitting out. Not brainless, but just disengaged. So, get some of those people involved. Like, look, this is what's going to happen. And some of these people aren't lacking the...
Well, and the sad thing about the MAGA thing is some of those people, I'm not talking to, because I don't want to even risk talking about politics these days, because of how heated all this shit is getting. Like, I don't expect that we're going to talk politics because we've avoided it for weeks and weeks and weeks. But it's just so crazy that I'm like, I don't want to run that risk. This is a friend or family, and I don't want to have that ugliness pop up.
Right. So here's the thing. You have this situation where, it has to be multi-pronged, multifaceted approach. And if there is any type of resistance that involves these certain things that, people are talking about, it has to be completely in control. You can't let this...
And it has to be the last possible option. That's the thing is, at some point, unfortunately, the direction that we're going, it will probably get there. Right. But we want that to be the last step that if there is a situation like No Kings...
It can never be misconstrued as offensive.
Yeah.
Because if that changes the narrative. What this accomplished was, it got a lot of people in the street. It got a lot of people together. When I was at the one in Austin, they had tons of booths as you came into Zucker Park with, different things you can sign up, meet different people, get, organized, and things like that. Get involved in different ways with people in your community. And I get it. Look, calling your congressman. Look, Congress can't do anything, right? They're not doing anything. I don't know what they can do. The judges, they're doing everything they can, but nobody's listening. Supreme Court basically said that you got no teeth either. So, yes, I understand the frustration. I understand that people think, like, nothing can be done unless we get violent. But I'm saying, wait, put on the brakes, man. Put on the fucking brakes because you don't know what you're talking about. Look, this is my first this is my first dictatorship too, okay?
Yeah.
But I have read some books, and so have a lot of other people.
And watch things going on in other countries.
Even people that are saying things that, like, look, no revolution in America ever happened without some resistance that required things to happen that are pretty unsavory, would probably agree with what I'm saying, is what I'm trying to convey. That even the ones that are staunch believers in resistance that's more than just performative, would agree that this was probably not a complete waste of time, and that if you're going to do the things that certain people are saying they're going to do, you better know what the hell you're doing and do it right. Otherwise, you're going to cause way more problems than you fucking solve. That's my position on all this. So, so with the No Kings thing, I think I addressed this in two different ways. One was people on the left trying to make these false equivalences of, like, what is, left wing and what is progressive, left wing of the same bird and what's progressive, and dealing with people that are left wing of the same bird right now, simply because it's a stepping stone to get to where we need to get to. And secondly, no Kings being effective in a lot of different ways and not a waste of time and not performative. And anybody else who's saying these other things that should have been done or could be done or should
go organize, go try it. You know,
you could like
create your own Substack.
Okay, you get
people. I don't know.
together that many people, tens of millions of people throughout the country, and do like.
You know, in some ways, it's remarkable that you got that many people together for anything, even just like a freaking
and
concert,
and
didn't have some
too,
violence.
because I'm sure people are going to be, okay, what are you doing then? What are you doing? Yeah, I'm doing it. What needs to be that I can right now is it enough? Probably not. You're right. It probably isn't enough. I need to do more.
Well, did you vote yet?
Not yet. No.
Yeah, we're going next week as well.
Okay,
but
so,
I'm just saying that's something that
sure vote.
you need to do.
I'm talking about like. When am I going to boycott? When am I going to sit in? When am I going to actually do something that could actually mean something?
And that's another thing that people act like, oh, you just do this, that, or the other. But if you realize how big some of these companies are, a lot of them, the idea of boycotting them, what the hell is it going to do?
Everyone would have to do it. So yeah, we're going to have to do more. We're going to have to do more than have a freaking parade. Yes, we're not going to be able to dress up in unicorn. You know,
frog suits,
even though it's a fucking lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, more is going to have to be done, recognized, understood.
But that doesn't mean that
mean it was a waste of time, and nobody should be disparaged, and nobody should be calling for. Yes, I get it. I'm not on the receiving end, so I'm not at this outrage level. Am I thinking that, like, if I was living in this place and some unmasked man came to my house beating down the door, that maybe I wouldn't take it? Look, if it's self-defense and you go to court and you do get a fair trial, yeah, you might have a chance because these guys are just showing up unmasked. You know, I'm going to be careful about what I'm saying here, but you get what I'm saying.
Yes.
I think people are going to get what I'm saying. That I'm not excluding everything under every circumstance. But what I am saying is be
careful.
Watch what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because you probably don't need to read a little bit more about history if you think that's the way to go right off the bat without at least attempting some other ways. And I've seen far too many people on that extreme end. And I'm almost wondering if in some cases these aren't agitators from the right. That want
some of them might be.
Well, because it seems like they want you to play into this violence. And it could be bots, but some of them look legit. And I'm like, man, you're really not thinking correctly. And if you're going to go that far, you better be ready to go.
Well, I think some of them are probably like my friend that I cut off due to the Charlie Kirk stuff. Mm-hmm. That I did not understand how anybody who was somebody like I thought she was, because she's espoused left-wing ideals, could be defending this person. Like, I get the defending that he shouldn't have been shot, but beyond that, there was nothing that he said that was honorable or honest or anything else. I mean, what the hell?
So you're talking about people that are liberal, that a lot of
that still get sucked into some
that a lot of
weird
leftists
stuff,
are very angry at,
and
that's why they'll actually sit out and not vote at all,
right? Or
call for violence.
The other thing that I've been hearing and seeing is like Democratic governors and whatnot, for example, who as recently as a year or two ago, they looked like they were saying and doing all the right things, and now they're siding with Trump just to protect themselves or something. I don't know.
I understand the frustration. I completely get it, and more Democrats like Jasmine Crockett and AOC, and now the mayor of New York, need to be put into positions. I'll even give Gavin Newsom some kudos.
He's got some issues, but at the moment he found his
look. Yeah, if I was in their position right now, and if I was able to get a lot, I couldn't. I mean, I get torn to shreds, I'm sure, from so many different ways. But what if I would be telling people right now? I'd be on the horn right now saying, all you people in ICE with your masks and shit, you're going to jail. All you guys are going to jail. Trump's going to jail. Hegsworth is going to jail. We're coming for you when this is over, you sick fucks. That's the level of
laying it out.
laying
yeah.
it out that I would
It's a
be.
question of time. It's yeah.
Yes, I am understanding that there's so many people frustrated that politicians aren't doing that right now. That they're just sitting there thinking they can still negotiate with these fascists. When there is no negotiating with them.
Well,
they're
and I could have understood, weeks, months, or years ago, thinking that you could negotiate with.
Right,
but
this is not
but
Mitt
at this
Romney.
point,
This is not Mitt Romney.
No.
This is not even George Bush Jr. This is certainly not George Bush Sr. This is not.
This isn't even Trump's first term.
This is not McCain.
Trump's first term, you could almost do that to a certain
Look,
extent.
there hasn't been a serious Republican since Bush Sr.
Yeah.
Bush Jr. was a puppet and a dimwit who got sucked in to the bullshit because he was too stupid and he let these clowns run amok. His dad didn't. That's why he lost. Because he said, I'm not going that way. I'm going to win legitimately because he had some integrity. I disagree with every fucking thing he said and did, but he had integrity and he wouldn't go down that bullshit route. Every fucking Republican who had integrity lost. Only the cheaters and the villains won, like Bush and Trump, because that's all they are today. They don't have any integrity. They have no values. They don't care about anything but themselves, and they're a bunch of sickos. And that's why we needed no kings. And that's why we need to get this shit together. And I think it was a success.